Good morning, everyone. Jonathan van Clute with Stock Navigators here at 5:45 a.m. on Friday, January 11th, last trading day of the week. Reminding you to please like, comment, and subscribe to these videos if you like what you see and you want to get more in the future and keep up to date on what I'm doing, when I'm going to be going live, etc. Then make sure to tick that little alarm bell and you will get notifications as well. All right, let's jump into the markets. Let's start out with the S&P 500 as we always do. And right now, S&P is continuing the rally, although this morning we are starting the day out with a red candle. It's nothing dramatic, but it is coming right back down into the box right now, flirting with the top of the box. So we're also in this sell zone right here, right in the middle of it. I would expect it very likely to test maybe the 21 EMA, something like that, which it also sort of tried to do yesterday. And buyers were there. They drove it right back up again. So there is definitely some desire to buy. There's people trying to pick a bottom here. So it could get more buying pressure to the upside, and we might just continue to march higher. Oh, hello, William. Nice to see you on the live stream. I always feel so alone on these because nobody else wants to get up so early, but I know you're an early riser too. So that's excellent. So anyway, what I am watching for on the ES, what I really want to see is I've talked about this before. I want to see a higher low. We need to see that. Right now, we've got the origin low, we've got a high, we've got a higher low, we've got a higher high. We don't have our second higher low yet. I mean, I guess you could try to say that's it, but that's nothing really. That's just normal volatility. So I really want to see a retracement happen. So far, we haven't gotten that yet. So far, the buyers are just really wanting to believe that this is the bottom, and down here we're not going to go any lower, and its bull market is back. But I need to see that second higher low to really believe that. So I'm watching for a pullback. That's what I'm watching for. I'm looking for a test, maybe of this zone to fail, come back outside of it, form a higher low somewhere, anywhere. And then, of course, if in fact the down move here is not done, well, then we can expect to see a break of this low here and obviously a takeout of this whole buy zone here, and then things to head further south. So clearly that would be a pretty bad thing for the market. And any number of things that are going on right now in politics and the world and all sorts of things, could potentially cause something like that to happen. So I don't think it's entirely out of the question. But anyway, right now, I'm not feeling like I could really get excited about jumping on longs, just given the area that we're sort of stuck in right now. I really want to see that pullback and a higher low. Just like we had here, we had this gigantic up candle here from the bottom, right? But it doesn't just go in a straight line straight up. It has to give us a bit of a pullback and then go higher. And we just haven't quite seen that yet. So that's what I'm looking for out of the daily. On a 60-minute, we are up in a sell zone right now. We've managed to push through all the way up to this one now, and you can see it failed. It got up to the top, failed, got up just past it, kind of failed, tried one last time, failed again. Right now, we have fallen below the 60-minute 21 EMA. So at the moment, it looks like the bears are trying to wrestle control from the bulls. We are in a downward move right now. The 21 EMA trying to curl over. It hasn't quite really done it yet. Well, no, it's just starting to. We have broken below the box, though. We had this steady march down, since the early hours in the morning, and really since yesterday, since the Asian session, since actually a little bit even before the Asian session yesterday, pushed it down here from the highs of yesterday. And then there was that one last push up attempt, and then basically Europe came online and said, no, we're not going to let that happen, and just shoved it down. So right now, below the 60-minute box and below the 21 EMA in the sell zone that appears to have failed. We kind of have a triple pop thing going on here. I feel like a retracement is due and is probably starting to brew here. That's what I'm going to be watching for. But obviously, it's all going to depend on what the buyers and sellers want to do. If buyers show up this morning at the open and just go into a frenzy, we could just shoot right on up past these highs, take them out, and potentially march higher, and maybe test these areas up here somewhere. But at the moment anyway, my feeling is we're looking to the downside. Navigator, as you can see here, has been making lower highs while price has been attempting to make higher highs, but has failed every single time. Bump, bump, bump. So we've got 3 attempts to break through this, and it has failed. But that also means that the next attempt is that much more likely to succeed. The more thrusts up into an area you have and failure, then the weaker that area gets the next time price gets back up to it. So watch out for that. But I am personally expecting to see a retracement. Like I said back here, I'm expecting to see that lower low get put in, and then perhaps we can see about moving higher. But for right now, anyway, on the shorter term, the 60-minute, it looks like the bears are starting to come in and take control. So watch out for that at the open. Don't get faked out at the open either. Give it some time, 30 to 60 minutes usually, to settle down and decide what it wants to do, and then see if there's an opportunity that presents. All right, let's take a look at crude oil, which is also similar to natural gas that I've been talking about the last basically all week. It's got its own congestion zone going on here from back here. Price was just in that big decline, fall, and then it went sideways for a while and very choppy. Broke down one more time and now has popped right back up into it. It did bounce off of a buy zone, broke through the descending trend line, broke the 21 EMA, broke the box. There is a lot of bullish strength going on here. Navigator is getting progressively higher and is looking like it's going to want to try to challenge that zero line fairly soon. So the next few days, keep an eye on that. And if price can basically get up out of this zone, then there's a good chance that will coincide with a cross of the zero line, and we could see some follow through to the upside. Maybe to this range here or so, which is also the top of the box. So keep an eye on those general areas. On the other hand, we've also had a very strong thrust up. It would be completely reasonable to see a pullback, lower high, and then march higher. So before we break out of this area, I would expect to see some kind of a pullback. But as I mentioned on the ES, it's all going to depend on what the buyers want to do and just how desperately they want to buy oil. And oil being so political, any little thing out of the Middle East or out of Washington, etc., could spook the market and drive prices higher. So watch out for all of that. Right now, you can see we've got just very big indecision going on today's candle. There's really nothing happening, no decisive move either way. So keep an eye for some conviction in either direction. To the upside, it's really got to decisively take out this high here in order to really march any higher. And to the downside, watch for probably a test of the 21 EMA, something like that. Maybe the bottom of this zone here. Maybe a new box comes out and we test the bottom of that. All of those are possibilities. I would be keeping an eye on any of that. But my expectation is probably a lower low to get a lower high. Excuse me, a higher low. I'll get it right one of these days. I'm still waking up. A higher low to be formed on the way up to establish anything bullish. 60-minute, obviously we're in, whoops, let me get rid of my pen here. Oh, wrong one. There we go. Obviously we're in quite an up move on the 60. And okay, come on. We had this nice bottoming behavior out here, established an upward trend line, and we are definitely continuing to ride that trend line. We've also got a lot of sell zones overhead, though. We have managed to get through the first of them, although it took a couple shots. It took one and then failed, and then the second shot tested, held as support, passed, got to the next sell zone, came back, tested, and held as support right now. So right now is where we're at. We're right here at this buy zone and testing to hold it as support. We'll have to see what the day brings if it fails and continues lower, or if price is actually able to bounce off of this level and then maybe break through this sell zone and then try to challenge the next one. So there's a lot of overhead crude resistance in crude right now. No big surprise after a huge down move like this. There's going to be a lot of levels it has to try to climb over to recoup that big of a downward move. So just watch for that pattern of higher highs and higher lows to form. That's really what we need to see to get bullishness happening in this market. So keep an eye on these key levels here, these zones, and watch for price to either break them or to fail and head lower. And then obviously in the short term, it has to not only break this zone here, but it really needs to take out these lows here. If we see that, then it's able to likely challenge this area down here. And then, of course, eventually it's going to see what happens when it gets to this trend line. Perhaps it just pulls all the way back to this trend line and then bounces off of it. That would be a really nice thing to see, and that would coincide nicely with a higher low out of this pattern here. So keep an eye on all of that. Navigator is green at the moment, so the bulls are in control on the 60 and have not been willing to let it go. You can see it's come very close to the zero line here, very close to the zero line here, but the bulls have been very, very stubborn and very unwilling to let go. Even when we had a bunch of exhaustion warning here, didn't barely slow down at all. We had a little itty bitty dip right here, and that was about it, just barely to the 21 EMA, and then just keep on trucking. So there is a lot of bullishness in this market, especially keep an eye on that zero line there. If we can cross the daily zero line, then we might really have something. All right, let's move on to gold. And gold is just continuing the kind of sideways chop right now, indecision, waiting to see what's going to happen. And on the 60, you can see that it's kind of trapped between this buy zone and sell zone here. So right now, not a really super clear picture. We've got just essentially on a big scale indecision. Right now, it's just kind of going sideways while the market figures out what it wants to do. We are technically in an uptrend. You know, we had this big down move and then we kind of bottomed and now have come back up again. So the 21 EMA has curved around nicely and we are making a pattern of higher highs and higher lows. So at the moment anyway, overall bulls are in control, but we are getting up near to a sell zone up here. And I would certainly expect that to act as resistance. We've also, of course, got this rising channel here that is also going to act as support as price gets to it. And if that continues to hold as support, then we're going to get squeezed between these two levels over time. And eventually it's going to pop one way or the other. So if the major market is in an actual reversal and gets healthy again and back to a bull market, then I would expect to see gold probably to retreat. But on the other hand, if the market collapses further, breaks those recent lows, and heads for another leg down, then I would certainly expect gold to be able to hop over this sell zone, probably tested as support, and march higher. So it's really going to be, I think, largely tied to what the rest of the market does, and just the fear factor and all of that good stuff. If you're looking to trade intraday, you know, these are kind of your range right now. You're sort of stuck between these two areas. So you want to be probably a seller up near the sell zone and look to be a buyer down near the buy zone. It's kind of that straightforward. There's not a whole lot much more to be focusing on there. So right now, Navigator is pretty close to zero, really. It's only at 7, 7.5, 7.25. Not a whole lot going on with the Navigator. No real strength in either direction. So just beware. Watch for possibly a break of your box levels, something like that, to help indicate which direction you might want to get on board with. But as I said, right now, you know, you probably would prefer to be a seller up in these levels, and would prefer to be a buyer down in these levels. So those are just the safer sides of things to be on. All right, last but not least, let's take a look at natural gas. And natural gas is just still stuck in this blue congestion zone here from back, you know, months past. So not a whole lot of conviction going on. It is kind of drifting upwards though, so I wouldn't be terribly surprised, given that we need to have a continuing pattern of lower lows and lower highs, for a lower high to form, maybe this gap to fill, and test maybe that's 21 EMA. Something like that. So that is kind of what I am watching for in crude, is to see what happens. Now, it's also possible this gap acts as resistance and the price gets to it, fails, and then heads lower. And then that becomes the higher high. Or sorry, the lower high, excuse me, lower lows and lower highs. So we get the lower low here, we get the lower high maybe up here somewhere, or possibly maybe the gap fills entirely. Maybe it fills all the way to the top of the gap and then rolls over and continues downwards. We'll have to see. But right now on the daily, we're at negative 26 on the Navigator, so definitely bearish. The bears are in control. But on a 60, the bulls have been holding pretty solid here. They keep not letting price get much below. It dips below a little bit, then comes right back up again. Dip below, right back up. Dip below, right back up. So the bulls are very determined in here. It would not surprise me at all if there is some short covering from some big positions going on in here at these various levels, and just somebody's gradually scaling out of a short position. Given the big move from here to here, I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's in fact what's going on. I have no data to back that up, but it would fit. So right now, there's a fair number of zones to have to climb over. Nat gas keeps trying to get through this zone here. Can't do it, can't do it. Did it for a moment, came back down, can't do it. So it's really being stuck by this. But the more times it tests this, the weaker that zone gets as orders that are waiting there get absorbed. So one of these times, it would be very reasonable for it to crash through there and then finally break through and head upwards into this area here, and then ultimately maybe somewhere in this gap, and then possibly fill this gap area, something like that. That's just the smaller time scale playing out of what I illustrated here, and then possibly heading lower if it can take out these lows here. So those are kind of the areas you want to keep a watch on. Of course, it's also entirely possible especially if we get some cold weather comes in, if maybe this gap fills and then it continues on higher, and maybe it tests this sell zone up here overhead. So it's going to be really dependent on the weather. That's the big deciding factor in natural gas. So, just keep an eye on those weather reports. We get a sudden nasty, horrible cold snap, or really unseasonable winter or something like that, especially on the East Coast or Midwest, somewhere like that. Then certainly natural gas could move higher. So just watch out for that. So personally, I can't get that excited about the bull case here, just because I feel like there's a good probability of, if there's a bullish move, that it's going to be fairly short-lived and then want to head down. So I would be in more of a wait and see mindset myself, and just wait for this to set up and then give me a lower risk entry, because right now I feel like it would be too high risk in both directions. So there's no real clear entry point right here that I would feel really safe getting in a trade based on the daily. 60-minute, slightly different story. Obviously, you've got tighter levels and things like that, but that's kind of what I'm seeing in natural gas. So back to the ES real quick. Nothing exciting has happened in the last few minutes. Not that shocking. We're going to wind up there. Actually, I'm not able to look at Bitcoin this morning. I don't know why. Something's going on with my TradeStation. Every time I open Bitcoin, it crashes. So I have a feeling a phone call to TradeStation support is in my near future while if we figure out what's going on there. So that'll do it for me. I'm going to get ready for the trading day ahead, see if anything presents itself. I was not able to trade yesterday, unfortunately, due to technical problems. My TradeStation went completely kaput, and I had to reinstall everything from scratch. So it's a shame, because it looks like there was a decent move to be had yesterday. But maybe something shapes up today. We shall see. There is always the next day. All right, well, one more time, please do like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already to these videos, and give us feedback. Let us know what you like, what you want more of, what you'd like us to do different, etc. We want to help you in your trading and help you to navigate the road ahead. So I hope you have a great trading day. I hope you have a great weekend. I will be back again on Monday, 5:45 a.m. So until then, enjoy your weekend, have a great day, and good trading. Take care.